Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope this is working. Hi, how are things going? Good to see you coming in already. Edward, Martin. Tigarche? Is that? Good to see you joining. I've literally just walked in the house. Just got back now. Hi, Matt. Yes, hello. So good to see you all joining in. Good to thank you for coming. And so yeah, I've just walked in now. I had to just nip somewhere and I got back just in time, which is good. It's a crazy 37 degrees out there right now. That's what it was showing in the car anyway. I don't know how hot it is where you are, but fortunately the air conditioning was working, so it was fine. Zdravo, zdravo, Edward. Good to see you. So yesterday I put out a post about Bulgarian because I'm often asked in these chats about sort of with Slavic languages, people are interested in learning Slavic languages, and I think that the easiest Slavic language I think to learn if you're new to them is Bulgarian, because Macedonian actually would be as well. Macedonian would be probably, I would say. I don't know whether there's one thing that's harder in Macedonian than in Bulgarian, and there's one thing in Bulgarian that's harder than in Macedonian. But overall, I'd say because of the amount of materials available in Bulgarian, I would say Bulgarian is the easier one because there are more things that you can find to help you learn. Whereas Macedonian, one of the sort of the more complicated books, once you get past this, there's this book from Macedonian, which I think probably anyone who's interested in it has probably seen it. It's this huge book, which is by Christina Kramer. And this is a book I used when I first learned Macedonian. And it's good. It's a good book to sort of give you a good grounding in the language. It's quite thick. It's meant for a university years course, I think, in Wisconsin. And then here at the university, they use this book, the local university, but this is all in Macedonian. I mean, they have exercises and stuff. It's pretty full on if you're kind of new to the language or you're not used to it. And then also, I think that the other issue with Macedonian is that we make more use of I think they're called clitics in English. And they're basically where you have to agree the noun with the direct object and that kind of stuff. And in Bulgarian, you don't have to do that. And that makes Bulgarian a bit easier in terms of grammar, getting the grammar right. The only issue with Bulgarian is sometimes the accent is on a stress, falls on a different part of the word, and that's kind of why it makes it a little bit more challenging than Macedonian, whereas Macedonian is very regular in its pronunciation. It's the pre-penultimate syllable that's stressed, so it's very easy to remember and easy to get the hang of. But I'd say overall, yeah, Bulgarian. I don't know, some of you said that you'd never seen those books before, but the books are pretty good actually. They're quite big. I mean, on the photo you can't really see how big they are, but they're pretty big books, these. And these are actually, they're produced with the actual exam in mind, for you to do the A1, A2. And this is definitely more the kind of thickness that you'd expect to do A1, A2 with the base vocabulary that you'd need in the country as well. So there we go. So that's what I shared yesterday, and I just wanted to show you that and explain a little bit more, because I got a question on Twitter asking me whether or not it's mutually intelligible with Macedonian, and yes, they are. Macedonian and Bulgarian on a one-on-one basis, kind of like Swedish and Norwegian. They are mutually intelligible if you talk to each other in that way. But there'd be misunderstandings because some of the very basic words are quite different. So a word like, for example, if you to ask for a pencil or a pen, a pencil actually I think is the same, but a pen isn't. A pen would be in Bulgarian chimikauka and penkalo in Macedonian. So they wouldn't understand each other's words unless they knew the word, they wouldn't understand the word. So there are a number of basic words like that that are different. A number of basic verbs actually that are different, and hampers communication sometimes, a bit like Norwegian and Swedish. But then if you were to get like Norwegian and Swedish too, if you were to get tables of one speaker and then a group of people speaking the other languages, that person would not understand all the jokes and all of the conversation. So yes, they are mutually intelligible, and if you learn Bulgarian, you can communicate in Macedonia with Macedonians fairly easily. It's not always going to be 100%, but it would work. But the same is true with Serbian. If you speak Serbian and you come here, you can speak to people in Serbian, and they will speak back in Macedonian, and you will also get a number of things. And it's not because those languages are closer grammatically, it's because the vocabulary is closer, especially some of the dialects are closer to Serbian vocabulary than Bulgarian, say. So yes, you can. It's actually, if you wanted to look to understand all of them, Macedonian is probably the best one for understanding them all, because you in the dialects you use a lot of the Serbian vocabulary, and in some of the Eastern dialects of Macedonian you use a lot more of the Bulgarian style pronunciation. So yes. Anyway, that was just to finish off that thing that I posted yesterday. I thought it was it was interesting to see the reactions from it, and yeah. Otherwise, the other thing that's cool is there in Macedonian and Bulgarian there are no cases, so people get scared of cases sometimes, and there are no cases. There are only, like in English, some basic sort of ideas that have left over from cases, and that's it. Okay. I have some questions here. What's my favorite language? My favorite language is German. I really like German because I learned it with kids, so I think that's probably why. The other questions I've got here are how does okay, Polish and Russian, how do they compare? Polish, Russian, and Czech, I think, are probably of the Slavic languages, the three most challenging to learn from zero if you know no other Slavic language. Just because their pronunciation, there are pronunciation issues. The cases are quite involved in terms of there are a lot more exceptions, or seem to be a lot more exceptions in those languages, and also for Russian, for example, reading it, you can't. It's not written exactly as it's spoken because of you have to know the intonation, where the stress is on the words to get it right. And with Polish and Czech, I think just getting the words out can be a bit difficult because it feels like it's a more acrobatics in your mouth than say a language. Even Slovak has more vowels and kind of more of a relaxed pronunciation than Czech. Czech's got this sound in it, which is challenging even for some Slavic speakers. And yeah, so Polish, Russian, and Czech are probably the most challenging for pronunciation, for learning to read and write well. I'd say, and to speak well are difficult in that group, and then the rest are a little bit easier. And then I think you've got Bulgarian and Macedonian, which are a lot easier to learn. I'd say after Bulgarian and Macedonian, the easiest ones would be Croatian, Bosnian, Serbian, and Montenegrin. They are easier than say Slovene is. I saw Pozdravi Slovenia, yeah. Živio, kako gre? Zelo dobro, Slovenija. Ne govorim slovensko, zelo dobro zdaj, ampak razumem dobro, ni problem za me. But so Slovene has the dual, and it also has, I would say Slovene is the most difficult of the Southeast Slavic languages of that family. And then of the Western Slavic would be Czech and Polish, I'd say joint. And then I'd say that Russian is the most difficult of the Eastern Slavic. So there we go. That's my full a Slavic language family description. I hope it's useful for you. I know people do often ask about this with the Slavic languages. I will do my best to read through some more of the questions now. Let me see. So there we go. On Facebook, we've got here. Dies moje Reich, Chris, konec cytatu. Cześć, pozdrawiam z Toronto. Cześć, Wojtek, jak się masz? Okay. Konnichiwa from Kentucky. Nice to see you. Konnichiwa. I'm planning to do a Spanish challenge for free to help some people to improve to start. Okay, so Marcus is on the Facebook page and he's offering to do a Spanish challenge. So anybody who wants to join him, please reach out to Marcos on Facebook. You can find his comment after the video as well. So feel free to reach out. Hey Diane, kako si? Dobra li? So let me see if I can answer some of the questions here on Instagram too. And I'm just going to see if I can see. If I do miss a question, please do feel free to write it again and I will do my best to get to every question I can. If I miss it, it's definitely not personal. What do you usually achieve? Okay, it's now gone on pause on that. Okay. Okay, so what do I usually like to achieve with a new language and when do I move on to another new language? It depends on the language. So I think it's really important to know why you want to learn a language in the first instance. If you're learning languages just to learn a language, just to add languages, or just to say you speak a language, or just to say you're learning the full entire language, I think it's slightly unrealistic because we never learn any language completely, not even our own. So I think what I do is, if I'm going on a trip, for example, I will learn to talk about things that I'm likely to use. So food, getting around, asking for help, asking where things are, talking about the weather, talking about buying certain things, the numbers, of course, and then maybe talking a bit about myself for small talk. Much more than that, really, I wouldn't really worry about for a trip. So yeah, I mean, if I know that I've done that and I'm going on a trip and I've done it, then that's when I know I can move on to the next thing. There are languages that I do like to just keep on learning, and I've definitely done that with some. So, or I have to go back and revise. So there are languages like Greek, for example, that I really didn't need for much more than going to Greece and talking to people and getting around and a bit of chit chat. I suppose over the years I've just gone back to it so many times and got so used to saying it over and over again that you know, now I can have a conversation in Greek. And I would love to work on it further, but it's not something that I would do and then not start a new language project. I would still do the language project, if that makes sense, Anton. I think that there is something nice about starting a new language because you kind of get that feeling of euphoria of learning something new, and because everything's, you're going basically, I mean, if you imagine that if you know nothing, you're at 0, and if you know 1, you've already like doubled what you know, or, you know what I mean? It's an interesting, well, you've not doubled because you can't double 0 and make 1, but you know what I mean? It's sort of, you've already gone 100% more than you could do before, even if you just say hello. So I kind of like that feeling, the same as everyone else, I guess, and so I like to continue to do new projects, and then I do keep languages moving forward, so on a very slow and steady basis. But there's no point, for example, me taking a language that I don't need at a high level to a high level just to take it to a high level, simply because if you do that, then, and you don't have regular contact with the language, but you've got a lot of other languages, as I have. I've got a number of other languages that I am in contact with all the time. I'd have to make an awful lot of time in my day to be exposed to the level of language constantly in that new language if I were to take it to the very high levels. So I kind of don't do that very often as a goal. Over the next 5 years, I suppose I would like to move my Albanian and my Greek and my Turkish up to maybe a B2 C1 level, just because, I mean, living in the Balkans, they're useful languages to have, and that's not too crazy an idea to have now, because I guess at the moment those three are around a B1-ish level, and I can definitely get by and talk to people. So yeah, I'd say that's probably what my goal would be. But it wouldn't stop me then also doing other things as well. And that was a very, very long answer, I know. Okay. Let me see if I can answer any other questions here. Thank you very much for the kind words. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say nice things. Really, I'm glad if people feel inspired by what I do and want to learn and have questions and feel that they're answered. That's the thing that sort of obviously is very important to me. So I really, really appreciate those words. Thank you. Yes, there's some class. Can I come up to ask you a question? Of course you can. You're from Iran. Salam. Of course you can. Bale, bale. Yeah, of course. Let me see. So please do ask your questions. Feel free to just ask a question if you do. How long does it take you to go to learn to speak a language fluently? Depends what you mean by fluently. Fluency is a very difficult thing to to quantify, I find. I've met people who say very different things about fluently, what fluency means. So it's difficult to say. And it would depend a lot on the language. If it's a language I've already studied, then it takes a lot less time often to do that, even for a kind of a short period, than say a language that's completely new and different. So yeah, there's unfortunately not one answer that I have for that. Let me just see if there's any other questions here. Okay, on YouTube. Why is Czech so much more difficult than Slovak? Czech pronunciation is more difficult than Slovak, Tim. It's got this hr sound that's difficult to say. Also, I think a lot with Slovak, they tend to have more sounds in between some of the consonants, whereas Czech will just put them together as a consonant cluster, which I think if you're not used to Slavic languages or languages that have large consonant clusters, it makes them a little bit more difficult to memorize than, say, Slovak. So that's why Slovak's a little bit easier. I mean, there's not a huge amount in it, to be honest, but if I were to say, yeah, I would say that Czech is more challenging to learn than Slovak. For somebody coming at both languages from zero, I would say that you would find Slovak easier to learn. Slovak is actually more in between Polish and Czech as well. So if you speak Slovak, you'll more easily understand Polish, and Poles will more easily understand Slovak than Czech. Czech just a little bit hard for some Poles to understand, and from Czech to go to Polish, sometimes it's a little bit trickier. Whereas if you go from Slovak, Czechs tend to understand Slovak pretty well. There are exceptions nowadays because they're not as exposed to it as they used to be, and Poles also find it easier to understand. And also from Slovak, it's easier to understand both languages. And then I'd also say that even also going towards Ukrainian, to the eastern side of the Slavic languages, from Slovak, you've probably got a better base. And then also from the other side, Slovak tends to be kind of in the middle. So it's also easier then to jump from Slovak to understand more Croatian, I'd say as well. So then say Czech. Czech is just, if you speak Czech, Croats aren't going to understand as much. But whereas, yeah, from Croatian to Slovak is not as big a jump. it's still a jump. It's a different branch of the family, but yeah, I would say that's why, I guess. Do you know how to say? Okay. Let me see. Een laatste vraag voor vandaag. Oké, geweldig. Even kijken, dat kan ik niet zo goed zien, maar ik kan het even. Kun je ook Vlaams spreken? Je wil vangen. Oké, goed. Dus. Ja, Vlaams spreken? Nee, ik kan niet. Ik kan een beetje zo Vlaams accent doen, maar niet zo goed, moet ik zeggen. Ja, gewoon zo. Maar nee, dat is gewoon zachte G. Maar nee, dat kan ik eigenlijk niet, Olga. Nee. Ik heb eigenlijk niet zo geprobeerd om te doen, maar ik vind het wel mooi. Ken jij dat? Thank you, Carla. I'm glad that you'll be able to catch the lives. That's really cool. Can I make a language learning CD course for us? Larry, do you think that would be interesting, me doing that? People have asked me in the past, and I never know if people are just being kind, or whether or not there is actually a market out there for that. It is something obviously I've considered. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't considered the idea of putting something together, because the only thing is obviously my day job isn't language materials. My day job is quite different. I work in social media, so this is something I kind of do for fun, and I enjoy these conversations with other language learners, which is why I do the lives since we have the pandemic breakout. I thought it was a nice thing to communicate and to talk to each other, and it's kind of a nice kind of a campfire type thing. I enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy to do something like that. What kind of things would you want me to create? I mean, general language learning tips, general language learning ideas, or would it be more like courses on languages? What would be interesting for you? I did take part in the Języki Mostovi and meetings in Novi Sad. What do I think about the event meeting? Tim, I enjoyed going to Novi Sad. Emanuele Marini is a good friend of mine, and I was pleased that he put it together and that we had it. So I really enjoyed that. It was nice. It was a nice event for me. I like Novi Sad. Obviously, it's the place where we had the Polyglot conference as well in 2014. So it's always nice to go back there. And yeah, I mean, Serbia is kind of it's a place that I feel quite at home in. I think it's Serbia for me is, yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what I'm used to. How many times do you repeat in a week to, let's say, to study active study? So 3 lessons, okay, or would you agree with spaced repetition? Hussein, I would say that a minimum of 2 study sessions a week is necessary to move forward, or to have that feeling of moving forwards, and then every day a little bit of study, just to sort of repeat words, repeat things that you've looked at, so that you have that repetition going on, so that things stick, and so that you can move forward with your studies. If you don't do the repetition, I don't understand how people learn languages really without going over things and seeing things, even if it's just repetition in your own head, like trying to remember what you've done, trying to remember the words actively. So I think that's the difference between what I see as people who successfully learn languages and people who don't successfully learn languages. The biggest difference I noticed between the 2 groups is that first group, the people that do successfully learn languages, they appear to learn them quickly because they're spending a lot more time thinking about the languages in between lessons, whether that's they're doing some revision, some actual study, or whether they're actually actively thinking about it in their heads while they're moving around doing their own normal daily routines. And then the people who don't tend to forget about everything until like the day before the lesson, maybe do a bit of homework before the lesson, then the next day do the lesson and then leave it again for another week or however many days. And that's kind of the difference between successful and unsuccessful learning. But I don't think that's just for languages. I think that's for most things. You're always going to have more success if you repeat things, because it will be just so much more natural for you to remember the vocabulary. Is it possible? It's possible. Often takes full cultural immersion. Okay, that's an answer to a question there. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to just figure out which question's next. Can a fluent English speaker with some knowledge of German learn Norwegian easily? It will definitely help you learn Norwegian, for sure, because of the vocabulary, and also because you'll start seeing the patterns in Germanic languages that appear in Norwegian too. Pronunciation is the biggest challenge with the Scandinavian languages, whether it's Norwegian, Swedish, or Danish. It takes quite a lot of work and focus to get the pronunciation right and to be able to pronounce things correctly. So that will always take time, but it will definitely be a help. If you speak German and English to learn Norwegian, it will be a lot easier, yes, absolutely. I actually spoke Swedish before I spoke German, and it really did help me learn German a lot more quickly, knowing Swedish and having studied Old Icelandic. That did help a lot. Se poser des questions face en face. Puis-je... Ouais, tu peux me poser des questions si tu veux, oui, bien sûr. Il n'y a pas de problème. Tu me dis ce que tu veux. Je vais essayer de répondre. Hein. It'd be awesome. Podcast, but learning. Okay. I can put together, maybe a podcast might be a good option, actually. I'd be happy to sort of get to grips with putting a podcast together, maybe doing something like that. You'd like to share a live with me someday? Yeah, well, maybe we can. I mean, I'm up for doing these kind of live interviews. I've done a few of them already, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I'd be very happy to do that. So Michael Thomas Method is with us. Really good to see the Michael Thomas Method. The secrets and skills of knowing those skills are key. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, I would be very happy to create something to help people learn. I think that obviously there are a number of books, and I think the thing that's stopped me from doing it so far is because there have been a few books written on this topic. I've probably definitely got different things to say, and would hopefully would be able to add some value there in that field. So yeah, I mean, I will definitely give it some thought about putting something together for people. Be happy to do that. Hey, Swedish and Fruitling, yeah, I like Swedish a lot too. Det är lätt som pepp. Ja, och så är det. Det är lätt, det är jättelätt att lära sig svenska, ja. Eller norska eller någonting. Eller hur? Great idea. Yeah, maybe that would be the thing to go forward then, to put something together. I would be happy to do that. So thank you for which Scots course will I take? So Martin, you've been paying attention. I like that. So I'm doing this course starting in a week's time, I think it is, which is an online Scots course with the University of Edinburgh, and they're doing it basically to see. It's with the neuroscience sort of neurolinguistic department at Edinburgh University. Thomas Back is leading it, and he's done some great talks. You can check out the Polyglot Conference channel and see some of his talks. He's a really, really interesting guy. And he and his team are doing these trials. Michael Dempster is going to be teaching this course. He's got a lovely video, actually, a TED talk that he did on learning to speak English as a Scots speaker, going to school and learning that his fingers wasn't your fingers, his fingers. And I love, so I love Scots, and I kind of fell in love with it, the language event in Edinburgh. So when I saw the opportunity to do this course in Scots, I was actually quite excited. So yeah, next week, Martin, and then hopefully able to speak some Scots. That'll be quite cool. How's my Persian going? It's going slowly, Andres. It's going slowly. It takes time. I mean, any language takes time. I think that I'm hoping that sharing this kind of this journey with you is showing you that even people have this perception that I learn a language like this, and it's just not true. It takes time. I also have obviously my job, and I work full time. I have a family, and I also do a number of other things like the Polyglot Conference that we're organising this year. So there's quite a lot going on. But yes, it's moving forwards, and I've got another lesson on Sunday. I have a Sunday morning lesson on Skype, and we speak in my very broken, very poor Persian. At the moment, I'm still picking out things that I know from my Arabic and my Turkish studies, which is quite interesting actually. A word that stuck out to me actually the other day was Qatar, which is the word for a train, but it sounds like Qatar, the country. I thought that's quite cool. Как там погода? Погода здесь очень жарко. 37 ступеней. Это очень-очень жарко для меня. Ну, хорошо. Да, это лето. Что можно делать? Это все. I started a language learning Instagram account. Okay, the team's languages. And I'm not sure if I should create a blog for it. You could do. You could create a blog for it, I guess. I think that some people do these in combination. They kind of do a blog with a podcast, and then they do the social media accounts that go around with it. So whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And you can put it on YouTube as video too. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ja, das kann ich. Ich habe Deutsch in Deutschland gelernt. Ik kan het een beetje, maar ik spreek liever met Nederlands accent. Ja, geweldige ogen. Ja, net als ik. Hè. Het Vlaams klinkt alsof iemand uit Rusland Nederlands spreekt. Ja, dat is mijn Vlaams, want dat is niet zo goed, hè? Ja, dat is nou niet zo goed. Yeah, that's my poor attempt at Vlaams. Do you speak any Austronesian languages? Now, I'm learning Maori, which is probably, I guess, in the area of where you're talking, but that's it, Lincoln. So, yeah, I'm learning Maori. I've had a little bit of a break. My teacher had a baby. No, bless. So I'm having a little bit of a break. So yes, some Maori, and I love Maori. Okay, let's see. Czech. Can knowledge of Czech helps? Do you learn Slovene with Slovak and Croatian Serbian? Yeah, any Slavic language will help you learn another one, really. Yeah. How do you acquire a native-like accent? I don't know. To be honest, I don't. It's never my goal to sound like a native. I want to sound, in terms of pronouncing things, I want to sound like I can pronounce things correctly. So I want to be as understandable as possible. But I never go for a native-like accent particularly. Sometimes it gets close, I think, for some of them. But yeah, a lot of repetition. Recording your own voice is a really good thing to do. Listening to native speakers and asking them for the feedback. Understanding where they make the sounds that you find challenging, understanding where they're made in the throat, where your tongue position is to make a certain sound. Those things really help. So paying very close attention and listening very carefully as well. How much my Swedish B1 helps me to learn Icelandic B1 level? Tim, Swedish to Icelandic. Scandinavians do like to think that they'll be able to learn Icelandic very quickly, or they even understand it from Swedish, Danish, Norwegian. Honestly, Icelandic's fairly different. I mean, it will help to a degree, like any Germanic language will help, but unfortunately, yeah, I mean, Icelandic is just quite a different language in terms of how it's structured, its grammar, it has cases, it has verb conjugations that the other languages and Scandinavian languages don't have. Yeah, but it would help a bit, of course. How's my Georgian? Terrible. My Georgian is terrible. Tsoli is that's bad, I think, in Georgian. Tsoli. Richard, how long does it take you to learn reach B1 level? Depends on the language, Luis. It really does. Türkçen durumdan üzerinde çalışıyor musun? Evet Ahmet. Ben Türkçe burada her gün, genellikle her gün konuşurum. Çünkü burada Makedonya'da Türkçe üçüncü dili ve bu yüzden merkezde her zaman Türkler var. Ama şimdi virüsle burada evde her hafta 1 saat Türkçe Skype'da konuşurum. Ve Türkçe televizyonda dinleyebilirim. Evet, iyice gidiyor. Yani. How much input output do you need to maintain a language? You need quite a lot, actually. It depends on the languages. If you speak languages that are similar, then you can maintain with one language getting a lot of the input if they're from a similar family. If you speak them well, you speak all of them well. But you need a fair amount. I got my Georgian question there as well. What about Teach Yourself and Colloquial series? Teach Yourself and Colloquial are good. I mean, I've got a lot of... I posted a picture of all my Teach Yourself books. Well, actually, there were a couple missing. I found them afterwards. There were a couple missing from the photo. But yes, I think that they are very good. I tend to start with those books in languages. And then what I do is I tend to progress on later to locally sourced materials. I tend to go through even the basic stuff again with local materials because it will fill in some of the vocabulary gaps that I may have. But I find Teach Yourself to be a great course generally to use to get going in language. Teach Yourself, Assimil, Colloquial, I use all three, I'd say, and it helps me just to get started. Just gonna have a quick check to see here on Facebook, just to see. Zdravo, Alexandra. Zdravo, kako si? Did you learn languages by listening to music? Oh dear. My Facebook Live just ended for some strange reason. I'm just going to start the Facebook one again. That's very strange. I've never seen that happen before. I'll just start it again so that poor people don't think that I've abandoned them. That's very strange. Okay, I'll go back to the other. Overlearning. Luis, yeah, overlearning. Language learning is overlearning. I think that was written in Teach Yourself book years ago, and I saw that. And I thought it's actually extremely well put. Language learning really is overlearning. There's definitely no other way to say it. I think it really is. I don't think that we learn languages in any other way. I think that it's when you're exposed to the language so much that it just becomes absolutely normal. Okay, I'm going to try and go live again on Facebook. And here we go. Hello. Sorry, anybody who... the live on Facebook stopped for some reason, so I've just restarted it. It will create a new video, and I have just... So I'll have lost the questions, unfortunately. So hello on Facebook again. I'm sorry the live went dead. I've restarted it. I hope that you don't mind writing some questions again, if that's possible. Unfortunately, it wouldn't let me restart it, so I had to restart on the fly, and hopefully didn't disrupt everyone's enjoyment of our time together too much. What's the easiest Germanic language to learn besides English? So after English, I would probably say Scots would probably be one of the easier languages, although not having one singular standard form, I think, is probably going to be challenging for Scots. But after that, I would say Afrikaans would be the easiest Germanic language to learn, because there are no cases, there are no verb conjugations. It's all ak, us, jij, us, hij, us, zij, us. So it's all the way through by us, jullie, us. And so it's quite easy from that point of view. I'd say that, yeah, Afrikaans, pronunciation is fairly straightforward for an English speaker, an English speaking person. Let me see. Would I make a video about learning Scots? Yeah, of course, I can make a video about that. No problem at all. Hello from Iran. Hello, salam, salam. Salam, salam. Hello from Switzerland. Hello. Okay. Hallo aus der Schweiz. Ja, grüezi. Wie geht's? Ist gut. De Schweiz. Salutations de la belle Suisse. Salutations. Salut, ça va bien? Kannst du Bretonisch? No, I can't speak Breton. I can understand some of it because of Welsh, but I don't speak it. No, I would like to learn some at some point, because obviously it's another. And also, yeah, Kernwig, I don't speak. Megduskin Kernwig, you're learning Cornish. Wow, that's pretty cool. Otinduski. Dayan, very good. Kommer å snakke perfekt som en nordmann. Når hur lenge har det hår? Ok, jeg skal bare så. For å komme å snakke perfekt som en nordmann. Jeg tror det går ikke å snakke perfekt som en nordmann. Som for meg. Ja, det står det. Jeg snakker litt norsk. Ja, jeg kan ikke snakke som en norskmann. Jeg har så en svensk aksent, og det skal alltid være der med min norsk. Jeg håper at de kan forstå meg godt på norsk. Ja, så å snakke perfekt som en nordmann, nei. Nei, det tror jeg ikke. How many languages do you speak? I don't know. I don't know how many languages I speak. I've studied over 50, but it's very difficult. As Cymru vooruit, yeah. Yes, I am from Wales and England. So yes, I'm English and Welsh originally. I want to learn Russian. Recommendations: get a nice book and just get going with it. There are some nice ones with the Teach Yourself guys. Have got some nice books. So have a look at that, and that might be a good start for you. There are a number of books for Russian. There are an awful lot of materials out there. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions for me there. What's your opinion about Armenian? I studied it for 3 terms at Yerevan Online University or college, a virtual college for Armenian, and I really enjoyed doing it. Just not very good at it yet. Hopefully sometime soon. What's my native language? English. Yes. Can you speak a little Persian? Okay. It's very difficult for me to speak Persian because my level's not that good yet, and I only know a few hundred words, I suppose. So, okay, man Persi balada, man man ra persia dustaran man mandar pazar mandar khaneam khaneam as no khaneam by khaneam man de man. It's really, really hard. It's really hard, especially because I'm changing languages and it's a new language for me. I find it difficult with a new language to change into it, unfortunately. I'll get better. Which Latin language is the easiest for you? Which Latin language? I don't know if there's an easiest in the Latin languages. I found, obviously, I've spoken French for so long that I don't remember learning it. So I've probably French, but that's because I don't remember learning it. But in terms of reading and writing and stuff, Spanish is probably easier than French to read and write because you say it as you see it, and you write it as you speak. Hello from Egypt. So Facebook is back. That's good. So sorry about that, Facebook. Have I met Steve Kaufman? Yes, I have. He came to speak at the conference in Fukuoka last year, but I've met him a few times now. He's really nice. He's very funny, actually, Steve. He doesn't like me giving him compliments. No, he's a terrible person. I can't. No, I like Steve. He thinks I'm being nice just to be nice, but it's true. I actually do like him. Groet uit Nederland. Ja, groetjes terug. Ja, bedankt hoor. Do you like the philosophy of stuff like that? Okay. I'm not going to comment and answer questions about my beliefs and stuff. I kind of don't tend to talk about those things. I'll tell you why. I don't go into my beliefs or my very personal things for the simple reason is that I believe that language is a nice thing to join us together. And I think it doesn't really matter about many of my other beliefs or things behind that. Just because I think sometimes that can detract from conversations about languages, and so yeah, I prefer to just talk about languages, and it's nice to, on a one-to-one basis with people. It's nice to get to know individuals, and obviously I'm happy to kind of speak in that way. But I don't tend to do the big sort of this is just me and everything about me, and this is all I believe and everything. I don't know how important it is to everyone really to know all that about me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't think I'm. I mean, you know, some people maybe do like to sort of say everything about themselves, or some people might want to know. I don't know. I'm guessing you do if you're asking. But I saw a couple of questions about what I believe, and for me, the biggest part of my life really is that I've shared with everyone here is the languages, and I hope you don't mind if I just stick to that topic. Do I speak Lithuanian? Unfortunately not, no. How long did it take me to learn Macedonian? To communicate in Macedonian took me about 3 months. I learned very, very intensively though. I studied every single day, and I had a teacher that I spoke to every week, and then I spoke and wrote every single day. I did a lot of work. 3 months, and I could get by basic conversation. I'd already studied Czech before that. So, by the way, just to sort of preface that, it wasn't that I was some sort of amazing learner of Macedonian. No, I spoke with a very heavy Czech accent apparently in the beginning of my life. So, but that's calmed down now. I don't speak with a Czech accent anymore. My daily routine is I work all day. So I work during the day. I listen to some things maybe while I'm working, and so I have them on in the background. My daily life at home is in usually 5 languages, and then for work I use languages for work too. So yeah, there's that, and then I maybe do at the moment while we're in lockdown probably around 3-4 hours of study a day, and then And then even when I'm not doing study, even like say I'm watching Netflix, I watch it with subtitles and read the subtitles. At the moment, I'm reading subtitles in Romanian. I'm rewatching The Mentalist. I really like that series, and I'm watching it in Romanian at the moment. Well, English with Romanian subtitles. Shalom in Israel. Shalom. Mashlom. Mashlom. Would it be wiser to learn MSA first or go straight to a dialect? Depends what you want to do. If you want to go and live in one of the countries, so some people I know did learn dialects first, but most teachers will always advise to learn MSA first, because then you can draw on words from MSA that all Arabic speakers will know. So the advantage of learning MSA before the dialects, and why it's always been done this way around, is because if you learn MSA, you have a set of standard words you know in Arabic. Then when you learn the dialect, you learn the dialect words. But the dialect words are the ones that change from country to country in Arabic. And if you don't know the modern standard Arabic word for this dialect word, and if you come across somebody who speaks another Arabic dialect, you can't change that word for another one. You've only got the dialect word, potentially. And then it makes it more difficult then to understand the other dialects. So I think that's the theory behind why people do go for modern standard Arabic first. Is learning Swedish and Norwegian at the same time a bad idea? Luis, of all the languages I could think of studying at the same time, I would not choose to do Swedish and Norwegian at the same time. I would say it's a bad idea, yes. Just because they're too similar. They're very similar. And it'll end up just being a mess. You'll speak what we call Blandinoviska, which is like a mishmash of all of the Scandinavian languages. Yeah, I'd wait and get one of them higher first, and then try the other one. Is there also rivalry between hyperpolyglots? Michael, not really. I don't think so. I don't perceive any anyway. If there is, I don't perceive it. I just really, I admire and like my other language learning friends for what they can do. So yeah, not really. Edward Dobro. Let me see. Do you have any difficulties understanding English? Okay. Despite. Okay. So obviously there are things in English that, of course, I mean, English is a huge language. So yeah, I mean, there'll be words that I don't know. So of course I always carry on learning, even my own language, for sure. But no, as a Brit, we have a lot of media from many different English-speaking countries, so I'm fairly well set up for it. I think in the US, it's a bit more challenging for people from the US to understand some of the other different English variants because they don't have as much exposure to them. Do you find the schwa in Bulgarian? Oh, do you like the schwa sound? Yes, it's cute, Tim. I do like the schwa sound in Bulgarian and Slovene. I'll probably get it wrong a little bit, but it might be a bit affected by my other Southeast Slavic languages that are stronger. Awesome. Okay. Okay, and yeah, טוב מאוד. טוב מאוד, טוב מאוד. תודה רבה. אני לומד בעברית, ואני רוצה לדבר יותר טוב, אבל עכשיו אין לי הרבה זמן בשביל ללמוד הרבה שפות, אבל עכשיו אני רואה את השפות בלינק בעברית, וכל יום אני לומד קצת עברית, קצת מן את השפות שלי בלינק. let me see what Germanic and Romance languages are more popular than Slavic languages. Why are Germanic and Romance languages much more popular than Slavic languages? So Tim, I would say that that's because they're closer to English, because English is kind of a mixture of a Germanic base and a lot of Romance words, Latin words. So that would be it. Culturally, we've been closer to Germany and the Netherlands, Germany and France particularly, well, Germany and France particularly. I mean, our royal family's German originally, so in the UK. So I guess that's one thing. And also you can see in the symbols around the UK, we use the French lions, the 3 lions of Aquitaine are on our standard and on our passports, because we used to rule that part of France as well, of Aquitaine. So yeah, there's an awful lot of mixing there, and German was obviously a court language in the UK. Sorry, German and French was a court language in the UK for a long time. So yeah, I think that that's probably why. I also think that there is a perceived sort of status in terms of Germany being a powerhouse in Europe for the economy, and Latin languages also being sort of related to, say, Italian with fashion, food, French with food as well, and I think that there is something to do with that culturally as well, and also a lot of people go to Spain on holidays. So I think there's a lot to do with all of that culturally, and that's probably why the biggest reason why they're more popular. Also, they're pretty widely spoken in Spanish, particularly. French is pretty widely spoken, whereas the Slavic languages are, some of them, the bigger ones are, but not as widely spoken as say, French or Spanish. German and Russian, probably more comparable, I guess. Russian definitely is a really useful language to learn. Russian's really good as a lingua franca. Sorry, a second. Do I understand Faroese? I do to a degree. I've spoken some Faroese, but I didn't speak it very well. I studied it a little bit after I studied Icelandic. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go. I've reached my hour, and I know that Instagram hates it when I do that, and it will cut me off. So it was a pleasure to speak to you all again. I've enjoyed talking to you all immensely as ever, and please do join me again next week, and we will speak again. Okay, take care, everyone. Have a lovely week and enjoy your weekends. Bye-bye.